not good. So it's discrimination. It's open discrimination. Everybody knows it. My students, some of them were Shia, some of them were Sunni, but a lot of them were still friends. Okay, so in February of 2010, the Shia came together and they wanted to ask the government for citizenship, equal job opportunities, equal representation in parliament, and for the government to turn into a democracy. So just like we have in America with voting and representation, they wanted to have that in their country, but they said, we want the monarchy to still be there, so we still want there to be a king, but we just don't want the king to have complete control over everything. So some people in Bahrain were saying, well, wait a minute, if we give the Shia the right to vote, what if they vote for bad things? What if they vote for really religious laws and the country becomes like really religious and women have to cover from head to toe and all of these things? So they were worried that the Shia might vote for bad things and it would become strict. But the Shia said, no, we don't. We just want equal rights. And so things got ugly. There was name calling. The Sunnis and the Shias were calling, the Sunnis called the Shias anti-king, you're a traitor, you don't love your country. It was very tense. So the Shias got together and organized a protest at the Pearl Roundabout. And these are my friends. We went to the protest, and I refused to be in the photo because I was afraid my dad would see, because he had said to my husband, don't you take my daughter to the protest right now. So I was standing right here, not in this photo. Okay, so that's the Pearl Roundabout, and they got permission from the prince. He said, as long as it's peaceful, you can protest. You have my permission. And the prince wasn't such a bad guy. So it was really peaceful. When we went, they were very welcoming. They were giving out free food. There were speeches. They said, oh, you're Americans? Come here. Oh, thank you so much for coming. They moved out of the way and let us sit in the front, and they translated all the speeches to us. They were so happy to have support. And there were no weapons there, I'll tell you that. It was completely peaceful. Well, the king went back on his word to the prince, because the king had told the prince, yes, they can do it peacefully. He went back on his word and he ordered the military in with rubber bullets, and that night they opened fire on the protesters who were sleeping, because they had camped out with tents, and they started shooting people in the middle of the night. And yes, there are women and children there. So this was just hours after that other picture was taken. We got to do questions at the end because we're almost out of time. So they called it Bloody Thursday, and 4 people were killed, 300 injured, and now doctors at a hospital nearby, all of a sudden these people start coming in with bullet wounds, so they start treating the wounds like a normal doctor would. Those doctors got arrested for conspiracy against the king. They were just doing their jobs. Some of those doctors were my parents' students, or I mean my students' parents. So really, really ugly situation. So here we have somebody crying, they must have lost somebody. The day after this, the Sunnis decided to have a day of pride parade. So this infuriated the Shias who had lost loved ones. So they had this big parade. It was right outside my apartment. Thousands of people came. This is nationalism. People completely decked out with their flag, ignoring the suffering of other people. There's a little girl holding the king, all dressed up. See a lot of children there, lots of flags. So these are the Sunnis. They know what happened. They know people died. But they're going to still have this parade. And all kinds of cars decked out with, that's the Bahraini flag. Traffic backed up. Children involved. I mean, the kids don't know what's going on. They're just having a good time. Now this up al-Khalifa, the king's name is Hamad al-Khalifa. And the Shias would say, down, down Khalifa. It was sort of their chant. So here's a response, up al-Khalifa. So Bahrain went into a state of lockdown. Schools closed. People were protesting on the street. Our school was actually vandalized and closed, and we were locked in our apartment for about a week. So you can see that's the school. There's some graffiti. They actually had to make a barricade out of trash cans to stop people from getting near the school because it was a target for graffiti. Why was it a target for graffiti? Because Shia and Sunni kids went to the same school, and some people didn't like that. Restaurants closed. McDonald's, yes, they had McDonald's and Dairy Queen. Graffiti was everywhere expressing anger against the king. So, down government, down King Hamad. Stop killing innocent. Here's actual rubber bullets from the attack that were given to us by students. So, if that thing would hit your head, it wasn't good. They're actually, when you shoot a rubber bullet, you're supposed to hit it at the ground so it will bounce up and it will just hurt you, like kind of like a what's the paint ball? Yeah. Yeah, but if you shoot somebody point blank in the head, it can be really bad. So there's some more posters against the king. We will not kneel except to God. Hello, we are getting killed over here. I thought that one was kind of weirdly humorous. The government didn't like the graffiti, so what did? They would go to a Shia neighborhood and just burn down one of their mosques, which is like going to a Protestant neighborhood and burning down a church. Even though, do you know if the people who are in that church did anything wrong? No. But let's just intimidate them and scare them. So there's some pictures of that. 5 days later, the protesters had a march to honor the dead. They were pretty angry. Now, instead of just wanting equal rights, they wanted the royal family out. They were enraged. They retook the Pearl Roundabout and had a huge celebration. There is a video, but we don't quite have time. So I'll show you some pictures from it. So this is after they retook the Pearl Roundabout again. They're given the peace sign. You can see there's thousands of people. It's kind of hard to tell. There's the Pearl Roundabout at night. Thousands of people. More thousands of people. There's a gorgeous shot of the Pearl. Both sides say the flag represents their cause. So that's why you might be like, well, wait, why do they all have that flag? It's because both sides identify with their country. So here is somebody holding a flag and a candle. Another shot of the Pearl. So sometime later, the government retook the Pearl Roundabout, burned all the tents, and actually tore it down. And it doesn't exist anymore. And it makes me really sad because it's pearl fishing is one of their greatest achievements as a country. And it was sort of just a monument for the country, but now it's gone. So the protesting has now gone from the Pearl Roundabout area to the streets. And so as a teacher, some of my students would show up late for class really tired, and I knew what they were doing the night before. They were out on the streets, graffitiing, fighting with cops. I mean, it's a serious thing. Friendships have been broken, children and parents have been arrested. Even one of my own students was accused of burning a Jeep down, and he's been sent to jail. And he's still there. And his friend came to me and said, I swear, we were at the mall that day, he didn't do anything. And this kid, he wasn't the type that would want to do that. So, another one of my students' father was a doctor who treated someone who had been shot. He was thrown in jail for about a year before he was finally out. Are we out of time?
Yeah, we're out of time.
All right, so we're out.